going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Battlefield Project podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Rhoda, and we are the podcast for people who understand that life is a battle and only the strong will thrive. I'm joined by my good friend here, Lisa Marie, who I'll introduce in a moment. But before I do, I have my one favor to ask that I always begin each podcast episode with, and that is if you get any value out of this episode, if it makes you think, laugh, cry, any of that, please share this episode or the podcast in general with someone that you love. The entire purpose and intent behind this podcast is to create a massive ripple effect in the universe and show everybody out there that every single human being has their battles that they must face in life. The difference between the victims and the happy people in the world are the happy people are willing to fight their way through those battles and come out stronger on the other side, as opposed to just letting those battles defeat them. So I am joined by my good friend here, Lisa Marie Platske. I don't have an official bio for you because I didn't ask, but I'm just going to speak from the heart here as this introduction. And she is someone that I highly, highly admire. I got to know her probably like a year ago through a quick 30-minute conversation because she's from a similar area to where I am currently. So we connected in Apex that way. We had a phone conversation. I immediately was like, this woman is like a superhero. And then very recently, probably a couple of weeks ago, she was kind enough to speak to the Battlefield Alliance group. And that call, that guest speaker appearance went phenomenal. We had many, many people reach out afterwards and be like, can we get more guests like that? The message that she shared was incredible. You're a speaker, a coach, a life changer. I call you kind of like an angel on earth who's here to spread God's word and to do good stuff. And I hope at some point you mentioned the angel bumps, because that's something that myself, I use all the time now. And Carrie Egan, who's a big fan of the show and yours as well. The other night we were talking, she was like, yeah, I just got angel bumps, like Lisa Marie said. So I just really, really appreciate the person that you are, the work that you're doing. And I'm really grateful for our friendship. And I'm excited for our guests here who are listening and who will listen in the future to learn from you. So thanks for being here, Lisa Marie.
Thank you. Wow, that's probably the best introduction I've ever gotten.
All right, take it.
Because it's personal, and that's what means so much to me. And so even as you were saying it, I got angel bumps.
Perfect. So. Awesome. Mission accomplished.
So yes.
So yeah, whatever battle you've experienced in your life that you're comfortable sharing with our group here, I'm excited to hear about it, because you're one of those people that I've gotten to know probably after some of those major battles, if you've had any, or in the past. But like, I have these conversations with you, I get off the phone, I'm like, yeah, she's got it all figured out. And like, she's just like this like omnipresent being. I'm like, so there's no way she's dealing with anything, because she's like this wonderful human being. But that being said, I'm sure, like everybody, you've had your battles that you've had to face in life.
Like everybody, you got it. And I would say that what I find fascinating is that there's no place that you arrive where it's like, yes, I've got it all figured out. There's always something that comes at you, and it's like you share, what are you going to do about it? Like, how are you going to make the decision to continue moving forward, or are you going to allow this to be the thing that takes you out? And what I'm really clear about is, people who bet on me usually lose. Like, I'm not going to let something take me out. Certainly not something that's designed for me. Yeah. So, when you ask about what's the thing, what is the piece, I would say that for me, as much as there have been the external battles, the ones that were feeling like I got dealt a bum deck of cards, like I didn't get the winning hand in life, is how I would sometimes look at it. Not because I didn't have a parent, a mom that really cared about me, or not because I didn't have wonderful grandparents, but just because some of the circumstances in life were such that if somebody were a social scientist and they put it on paper, they would not have gone, oh yeah, this person is going to be successful based on, the domestic violence, or my dad going to jail, or, the list of physical or emotional or sexual abuses, that I had to contend with. And what I'll say is, if you were to ask me the biggest battle is the internal battle that I've had to face every single day with, am I equipped to be able to do what it is that I'm being asked to do in this moment? And not necessarily at work or at home, but am I equipped to do what I I'm being asked to do in this moment. And this started, I remember the first time this started was when I was 6 years old. So it's not like this battle is something that, happened when I turned 35 or something like that. Oh, no, this is one that's been with me my entire life.
That two things you said there, am I equipped to handle what's expected of me in this moment? Like that's why I just enjoy talking with you so much, because your perspective is so different from most people that I communicate with. But that in and of itself is like you recognize the importance of your actions like on a moment by moment basis, not like in a big moment. It's like, can I handle this right now? You're talking like minute by minute, moment by moment, conversation by conversation, experience by experience, and you're understanding and acknowledging the sheer responsibility that comes in each one of those microcosm moments of time. And that, I think, is why you're such a powerful person, because you're not just like floating through life, and if something big happens, you're like, okay, can I handle this? What should I do now? It's like that's a thought process that's constantly at the forefront of your mind, which changes the way you live and communicate and deal with people and interact with people.
It's the responsibility for us to be in communion and connection with others. And like, even as you were saying, and I was getting angel bumps, like it's the in this moment when I'm in this conversation with somebody and a client shares something and it's so big. Wow, if I was to rely on my own skill set and not tap into my connection with the Holy Spirit, like, do I have what it takes to handle that? And so it's not about me going, oh, let me be the one to do all the heavy lifting, or let me be the one to, no, it's really ensuring that I'm connected and checking in, because I have learned on my own journey that when I rely so much on me, I'm depleted. I really don't have all the answers. And so that moment by moment allows me to also be humble, to be vulnerable, to recognize my frailty, but not a weakness, it's not possible, just rather a acknowledgement of what other resources need to have in this. Like, do I really have what it takes to handle this in this moment, and to deal with this in a way that is going to be the best for whomever I'm dealing with. And so even when I write letters, and I'm always thinking, who else needs to see this letter? Because if I send this out, the lens in which I look at things is a lens where if you do a behavioral assessment, 8% of the population sees things this way. That means 92% of the population is going to read this in a completely different way. And so I don't want to put something out that can potentially create harm. So who else needs to take a look at it that's very, very different than me, that's going to go, oh, and it doesn't matter whether it's a video script from like one of my teachings. It doesn't matter whether it's a letter that's going out to somebody. It's like, who else has a perspective that might be different? Because do I have what it really takes? Now that's also impeded me in the process too, where, if I'm thinking about that too much, then it can become a value, like an evaluation of, am I good enough, or a whole bunch of other things. And it can also serve me really well. So there's this delicate balance to that.
I was going to ask you that, and you just kind of answered it for me. Are there moments where you ask that question of yourself, are you equipped in this moment to handle this, where you're like, no, I'm not? And if that's the case, like, what happens next? Like, do you just kind of like shut down and like, I need some space to like find that like those resources outside of me to like channel that through and funnel that back to you? Or do you kind of just like talk off the cuff and like hope for the best, and like, I'm not really confident in my answer, but some answer is better than no answer? Like, what's your approach with that?
Well, sometimes I don't notice it right away. Like, I am someone who I like to work, and I'm someone who it can muscle through things, because I can sit at something and go, okay, let me just solve the problem. Let me just, fix it. and and then there's the noticing for me when I give myself the space to pause. That's my snap technique, to stop and notice and ask the question, and then to pivot or to pray. Okay, so if cancel clear. All right, if I'm in this inquiry here and what I'm feeling is overwhelmed, queasy, whatever the noticing is, when I give myself the opportunity to be in the noticing, and it's not just like let's work a bit harder, let's focus, then I go, oh, that's not what this is about. This is about something else. And so there are 7 areas of well-being that I'll check in with. Like, is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it intellectual? Does it need somebody else's eyes? Is it spiritual, that I just need to pause and connect with God? Because that's a connection point for me. Is it a financial, like I'm stressed out about something external? Is it relational? There's something else going on that needs tending to. Is it actually designed in the work process in the way I'm doing something? And I don't really have an answer unless I take the time to ask that question. But when you ask me, like, do I naturally go to that? No, my natural personality behavioral style is to problem solve, and it's to push through. And so I have to consciously give myself that tool to go, that's not necessarily effective, and it won't necessarily get you where you want to go, Lisa. And then in doing that, Matthew, what I find so interesting about this for me is that sometimes it happens to be a psycho-spiritual energy, meaning it's an energy of somebody else. It's not even mine that's actually shown up. It's literally something else that is an other. And I go, this is actually about the collective. This is about, humanity being in distress. This is not about me, or this is about a conversation that somebody else had, that they've dumped their energy on me, and I don't want that. And so I have to really be in the distinction of why I'm feeling something when I'm asking that question. Do I have what it takes in this moment? Because I can very easily push past that and almost in arrogance go, yep, I do. I've got what it takes, and let me just work a little bit harder, when it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah. You just said something that, like, it's just like every conversation, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder if that's what is going on with me. So I think I've said this to you before in conversations. I probably mentioned on other podcasts. Like, if you would say to me, Matt, is there an area of your life where you're concerned, or there's like a little bit of stress, and it's financially, like family, health, fitness, business, like all those things, I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'll continue to get better, but like, I'm good. And then there's the finance where I just like on a semi-daily basis, I'm like, I'm still missing a boat. I'm still missing a boat. Like, I need to go from here to here way quicker than I'm slowly going up to here. And now, as you said that, sometimes it's just like, maybe it's the collective energy, because I'm not going to know the exact percent, because I think that's impossible to know. There's a larger percentage of me at my depth in my soul, my core, that does not worry about finances, because I'm like, I'm good. I've always been good. I've always had the amount of money that I need. I've always been able to provide for our family. I'll continue to be able to do all those things. We have like a happy life. We're not really stressed about money at all. But
Right.
then there's another piece of me that like goes into that other space where it's like, but I need more. And if I don't get more soon, then something bad could, and like, perhaps that's the collective energy of humanity, of like, not enough, wanting more, stressed about here to there, and the difference between the two. It's not even really, because if you would ask me, I think like my core, my soul, my essence isn't worried about it. Like, I'm peaceful about it. But then I get into this frantic space of energy and like mentality and thought process, where it just like hooks me in, and then I go there for a little bit, and then I have to like stop, be like, okay, but think about everything you've done and where you are and what you have. Like, there's no reason to stress it out. And I just like, it's back and forth, back and forth. But I've never thought of it as an outside, like, to me, it's always just been me. It's Matt, like the peaceful Matt. It's Matt, the stressed out Matt, or like anxiety driven Matt with finances, but it's all Matt. Like, it's all my essence. and to some degree it is, because my essence is part of the collective essence, so I get that. But
Right.
it, like, maybe it's driven more by that than it is by me, which is a peaceful thought to have, because that just brings me more peace, because I'm like, the peace, like the bigger piece of it all, which is me, is at peace. So just like
Exactly.
go back to there and resonate there, as opposed to just like subconsciously being pulled in the other direction and playing in that frantic space that I go into sometimes.
And that's the genius of being able to ask the question and be in the curiosity moment by moment, is like, what is this? And sometimes I'll have a conversation with my spiritual mentor and I go, this is not like me. Like, my natural state is, I have a business called Upside Thinking for a reason.
Yeah.
I am upside. Like, I'm not somebody who gets into angst over things. So if I'm feeling this, where is it coming from? Because
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like me. And whenever I say that it doesn't feel like me, I'm like, that's because it's not.
Yeah.
Like, it has me pause and go, it really isn't me. It's not. And I get angel bumps like saying that. It's
Yeah.
because it's not. And so if I'm not conscious enough to go, this isn't mine, I'm not sure whose it is, but I'm giving it back because
Yeah.
I understand that it isn't mine. And so when you talk about money, there's so many people that are in fear over money, even when things seem to be really great in the world. And that, when you're out and about and you're shopping, or you're online, or you're in social media, you're experiencing all these messages, excuse me,
Hmm.
that have nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
It's not yours.
Yeah.
And you're still part of it. I mean, it's one of the reasons why years ago, I haven't had a TV since I was 17. And you get messages there. You get messages from people you work with. And those messages they don't even have to be aware of, meaning they can be dealing with something that you're unaware that they're dealing with.
Hmm.
You are aware of some of the things that I've been going on in my home with pipe breaks and things like that. When I am on stage or out and about or in business, there are people who haven't heard from my mouth the things that I'm dealing with. And yet behind the scenes, energetically, my body is dealing with insurance and money and contractors and
Yeah.
things. And so you can still feel that somehow, because like you say, you were part of the collective.
Yeah.
So yeah, with money, it's like, are you looking at your bank account? Are you making friends with it? Are you, do you go, wow, like this is pretty incredible, like this is where I am? Like, are you doing that? Or are there forces coming in that you're unaware of?
Yeah. Yes, there are. To answer your question, there absolutely are forces coming in that prior to this moment in time I was completely unaware of, and just let it just became part of me. I'm enjoying this conversation a lot, because a lot of the guests I've had on so far, and even prior to the hit the record button, I say to them all the time, like, it could be like a one-time battle. It could be something that you deal with over and over again. And the majority of the guests have shared in the moment, like a time specific battle. Like, I had to
Mhm.
deal with a loss, or I had suicidal thoughts, or I lost a job. And it's like a snapshot of a moment in time. And those are just as impactful in your life, and I think as valid as any other battle. But I've kind of have hoped for guests to go the long-term game with an explanation of the battle, because I feel like that is, I don't know how to put this. That is like more of the essence of the human experience. Is, yeah, you're gonna have those like quick battles. You got to like fight your way through it for a week or two or a year. You get out on the other side and you're like, okay, life is good again. I just like that. That's in the past. It's behind me. But you're gonna hit with another one, and then you might get past that one. You're gonna get hit with another one. So you might have like random battles stacked up on top of each other for all of time, or like you mentioned, since you were 6, or you have like a battle or multiple battles that just stay with you on a daily basis forever and ever and ever into the future. And those can sometimes be more daunting, because it's like it's not a battle you can't win, because as long as you're acknowledging it and fighting your way through it, that's winning. but it's one of those things that it can kind of get like a little overwhelming at times where you're like, is this ever going to disappear? Like, am I ever going to just be able to overcome this and wake up the next day and feel lighter because it's not something I'm dealing with internally anymore? And sometimes the answer is no, it's going to be something you're dealing with
Yep.
forever and ever. And then what do you do with that?
I think that is just gold right there, what you said, which is, the question of, am I going to be dealing with this forever? Like this can't, there must be something that I'm doing or not doing because it hasn't gone away. And it's like, no, that's not, it's not like something wrong with that. I mean, because for me, I would make myself wrong with it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, all right, why are we still in this place? I've had my business for 18 years and I cannot tell you the number of times where it was like, I'm not smart enough to do this business. I should just quit. I should, get a job and do this. And then it's like, that's not true. Like that is so not true. And yet, this feeling, this battle, if you will, that I have what it takes in the moment to deal with whatever that situation is. And so I have just come to make peace with it.
Mm-hmm.
Where for me, the battle was more every single time it would come up, I would take out the sword. And sometimes I need a feather. Sometimes I need a sword to be able to win the battle. And I understand that that's just a message for me to dive in a little bit deeper in order for me to connect better with another part of me that allows me to connect better with another part of someone else, when it shows up. And so rather than wishing it away, which I used to do, which is like, gosh, will these feelings ever go away? Are they about my value? Are they about my worth? Are they about, about my confidence? Is it about my, like, what is it that's wrong with me that this has shown up for so long? And now it's like, oh, you're here because there's something for me to see. There's something for me to learn. Oh, you're here for me to recognize that. And so when I recognize something as the collective, I go, oh, there's a lot of people that are in fear about this. That's important information for me. I don't have that. And so I can acknowledge that I've seen that. And when I have a conversation with a client, I understand that this might be part of their journey, but it isn't mine to take on. And it's not mine to fix because there's not something that's wrong with me. It's just something for me to notice.
Yeah. The human experience is so wild sometimes, like all the time. But like when I have these conversations and I'm just like, my mind's expanding and like consciousness is exploding, I'm like, holy crap. Like it really, because I'm a big believer, like we're all connected and energy, like you're a mirror of me, I'm a mirror of you. And like you see in other people what you see in yourself, like that all makes perfect sense to me. And I've believed that kind of stuff for probably 2 decades now or whatever. But then sometimes you're having a conversation and it actually like you can feel it as opposed to like know it. Like for me to be like, oh, I know we're all connected and everything's energy. And when you walk into a room and you can feel if it's a good like the energy is affected by the people in the room. Okay, yada yada yada. But then like this conversation, I'm like, holy crap, like it really like we are all impacted by the collective energy. And that's not even like the collective energy of human beings in the same room as you. That's the collective energy of like society and humanity as a whole. And that understanding and awareness, then you're like, you're exactly right. You're like, why would I beat myself up over this like feeling that I can't get rid of, like when it's not me, but it's that. And like you can't walk around to, I don't know how many people are on the earth at this point, however many billions it is, but like you can't have a conversation with 4 billion people one by one and be like, let's fix this because I don't want to be affected by the collective consciousness anymore. Like what world do you live in where you think that's even a remote possibility? So to let that be like, okay, I can't do that. So what can I do is just be aware of it and then control what I can control, which is understanding that it's not me. This is who I am because that's what I get to control to the extent that I can control it and find peace in that. And then just kind of let the rest of it roll off your back and send energy out to all the collective to shift and impact what you can as one human being, one soul on this earth.
Exactly. And then you can go back to the real basic of, if I understand who I am, and I really get who I am, like I understand it at a core, then when something else shows up, I'm really easy to identify. That's not mine. Like
Yeah.
there must be something else going on, because it's not mine. That this is, I know that this isn't who I am. I know
Yeah.
that this isn't part of how I'm wired.
Yeah, I just got major angel bumps because there's been so many times, especially since we've had kids, where like I'm just sitting in the room with them, and like Sunday morning it seems to happen more than other times. Like the sun's shining through the windows, the kids are like in the living room and like dancing to music, smiling and having fun, and I just get like consumed or like just saturated with gratitude. And like I'm in that moment, I'm like, and that's when I feel like this is who I am. Like I'm seeing everything. I'm grateful for everything. Quite often, like I feel my dad's presence, who passed away 2.5 years ago, and like there's a little bit of sadness that
Mm.
comes in because I'm like, I want to see him in this room with me and like experiencing the life that we've built, because he loved kids and like he only got to see two of our four, and the one not much of because he passed when she was really little. But then even beyond, like I feel gratitude towards that too. Like the fact that like I believe wholeheartedly that he's watching this and he's part of the reason why I'm in this moment absorbing and just being saturated by gratitude. So like in those moments I'm like, this is who I am. Like this is my soul in essence on earth experiencing my bliss. Like this is where I reside, this is where I belong. And then yeah, like I'll pull up my bank account and be like, oh crap. But then like I'm fully aware of like that's not it. Like that's such a small, minute detail that is it's significant because money plays a role in this world, but like it's insignificant on the level of my soul and my essence and my being. So like go back to that Sunday morning moment where it's just like I'm so grateful. Life is so good. I have everything I could ever ask for, and just like stay there as long as humanly possible.
And when you were speaking about that, like in your dad, and even now, like I could feel myself start to be moved by tears, and start to, the angel bumps in my body, just like the realization that, yeah, like he's present and he's involved in that, and you're experiencing it, and you're seeing the true essence of you, the in all of its perfection. And that doesn't mean that there aren't challenges, or that there aren't battles, or that there aren't wars that are going on, being waged in that moment. Like it doesn't take away that there may be really hard things that you're going through. And when you remember that, you understand that those two are temporary, and this gets to be permanent, like
Yep.
the who you are.
Yep.
That's what it is for me, is like when I go back to that question, and that constant battle versus like the battle with an insurance company, or the battle with with food, or the battle with any of the things that I've gone through with work, or harassment in the workplace, or you name the list of the battles that you've overcome. The daily one with self is, can I stay connected to who I am?
Yeah.
Can I really stay connected to the being that I understand that I am? And I find that when I was in law enforcement, Matthew, they'd talk about, when an officer goes bad, when something happens and somebody, becomes crooked, if you will. And it never starts with like this big moment. It starts with the small, teeny little breaks in integrity and character that happen to be able to get to the egregious act.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the same thing with us. When we forget moment by moment, when I forget who I am, in that moment, and then I allow something else to come in and take up more space, well, I've lost the battle, right? Because I didn't, I no longer I allowed something else to come in and take the place. Or in
Yeah.
your case, speaking about that, I let something else take in and negate the Sunday morning, which is
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah. Holy crap. Like now I'm like, we'll finish this up in a couple minutes, but I'm like, now the entire afternoon, I'm just going to constantly be thinking of like, how do I continue to win that battle of like self-awareness of like to remain true to who I am? Because really, I feel like that's like life's golden ticket is like if you can
Yep.
be aware of that battle and then win it, or like just be aware of wanting to win it. And because you're, as much as, I wish, and that maybe it's possible, but like I don't think 24/7, 365, you can stay connected to it. Like I feel like life is just way too complicated. The collective energy is too strong. Like there's just too many pulls outside of you to pull you outside of yourself
Yep.
to think that it can go all the time. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't strive for it all the time and to fight your way back to your essence as much as you humanly can. And
That's
I
it.
like I just feel like, man, like armed with that knowledge and awareness now, I'm like kind of like, all right, like let's go. Like here, like let the games begin. Let the,
Mhm.
let's dive
Yeah.
in, because this is a solution to a, I don't know if I call it, it's probably my own, it is a battle. Like it's a battle that I fight on a daily basis, is getting pulled into the, I call it sometimes like the nonsense of life, where I stress about stuff I shouldn't be stressing about. I think about things I don't need to be thinking about. I'm worried about the future, which is like the future will take care of itself if I continue to do the best I can on a daily basis in this moment and just go moment by moment. But then I get pulled out of the moment, and it's just like back and forth. And now it's like, okay, that's always going to happen. But like, I really just need to continue to go back to my Sunday morning. I'll just keep calling it my Sunday morning, like find my Sunday morning and just
Yep.
sit in that space spiritually, mentally, physically, and just get back there. And then the rest of the stuff can just melt away for as long as it will. And then it'll come back. And then I got to sit back in my Sunday morning, and then it'll melt away, and then it'll come back, and just
Yep.
back and back forth we go.
Yeah, and I think, because you have four beautiful children, they're going to have the opportunity to watch you do this
Mhm.
and watch you and understand that question, figure out the question for them, like, who am I? Who am I as, not what happens in school, not what happens, with my siblings, not what happens, on the playground, but like who am I? Because that's I believe what I don't know that I had permission to do years ago. Like it was something that I had to really figure out. I didn't understand that, well, if I'm really clear that this is who I am, then making those other decisions and seeing that and asking for help and having resources and being in choice, it all comes that much easier because
Yeah,
I'm clear who I am. When you're not, then those things take over and there's a confusion. Well, is this mine? Is it not mine? Is it, this might be, maybe I am in fear about money.
yeah,
Maybe I really am. No, maybe not.
yeah,
Maybe because this is who I am, right?
yeah,
And so you don't get confused or off track in the same way. And you have such a responsibility with the little ones that
little
you have
children,
that
yeah,
are watching that.
yeah. Have you ever read the book The Untethered Soul?
I have.
It's like one of my favorite books ever. I think I've read it twice, and this conversation is making me think of the book because they talk about like you're the consciousness that's aware of your consciousness, or something like that. Like you're like consciousness that sits at the back of your head and watches your human body experience life. And when you think of it like that, you're like, holy crap! Like I'm not my body. I'm not even my thoughts. I'm not like any of that stuff. I'm literally whatever consciousness is. I'm that watching and performing all this on a human level. And when you
Yep.
think of that, you're like, holy moly, like the infinite power that resides in that knowledge makes everything we just talked about very doable. Because if you're that, like, then you're everything and everything, but constantly like being pulled out. And then I don't remember the last time I even thought of the book, but it's like a super powerful book. And I'm like, I should think about this every day. Because if I can go through life seated in my little consciousness, like corner cave of my reality, and realize that's all I am, and the rest of this is like a manifestation that I kind of control but don't control, and I just need to keep watching it and performing the best I can, it changes everything for you. Like when I read that book, let me tell you really this quick story. I read that book and I was fully aware of it. And I've always kind of seen deer as like my spirit animal in addition to the red-tailed hawk. And my parents grew up they had a cornfield in their backyard, never, ever, ever, ever saw deer, ever, not even once in my parents' development or in their yard. And I finished reading that book. And the one day I took my dogs for a walk and I came back around, there were three deer in my parents' backyard. And it was just like after reading that book, like I could feel consciousness opening up. And then I saw these deer and I'm like, okay, God, universe. I'm like, loud and clear, like you really do create the reality that you exist in,
Yep.
because you just got to be tuned into it. The whole key is just being tuned into it, which is very difficult to do, but powerful and possible.
Sure. Are you willing to see it? And
Yeah.
that's really what it comes down to. Or and with any feeling or like you speak about the battles, are you
Yeah.
willing to really understand what they are? And are you really able to see them for what they are?
Yeah.
Because if not, then you're only seeing the 10% or
Yeah. The tip of the iceberg.
yeah, right. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lisa Marie. I knew I was going to enjoy this conversation. It's been on our calendar for a couple weeks now, and I'm like, sweet, like, April 14th, I get to have a conversation with her. I knew I was going to enjoy it, and I'm not surprised that I did as much as I did. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for pouring into me and anyone who's listening to this episode. Where can people find you online if they want to hire you as a coach or go to one of your summits, stuff like that?
My website is Upside Thinking, UPSIDE, and the word thinking, THINKING.com. That's where you'll find me, and you can set up time to talk to me or find out what I'm doing.
Beautiful. And if you're listening, I would highly suggest taking advantage of that, even not taking advantage, that sounds awful. Utilizing that opportunity to connect with Lisa, whether it's on Facebook or an actual conversation. Your life, your soul will be gracious and thankful to you for doing that, because as you can tell through this episode, she's a wonderful human being. So thank you, Lisa Marie. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you on the battlefield.